Welcome to Authenticity Unleashed. I'm your host, Pam Rader, and I've got a really juicy topic for you today. Today, we're talking about triggers and triggers as an opportunity for us to look at where we're not healed, to look at old stored junk in the trunk, if you will, and triggers as an opportunity to perhaps close an energetic loop in your life so that you can move forward in ways that align with your highest intention, your highest purpose, the goals and plans that you have for yourself. Now, what are triggers? Well, oftentimes when we've experienced something in the past that had an emotional impact, maybe we've experienced violence or rejection or betrayal, or we've been physically harmed. The body remembers that. And the brain is an instrument that doesn't like to use too much energy. It likes to go into the past and look for things that seem like what happened before so that it can choose a reaction or a response that it already knows. The brain is all about habits. It loves habits because it makes it more efficient and it can free up energy for fight or flight should we need to flee a saber-toothed tiger or something. So the brain goes into an old place if something that's happening right now seems like it resembles in some way some trauma from the past. And when the brain goes to the past, it says, this seems like this, and this is how we reacted. And we get a nervous system response. We might feel anxious. We might feel angry. We might feel scared. There could be all kinds of physiological and psychological chain reactions to a trigger. Now, a trigger could be a smell. It could be a sound. It could be the way someone interacts with you. It could be that something is threatening you. But when we have a response that feels either out of proportion to the perceived threat or doesn't seem to fit with what's going on, that might be a trigger that we want to take a look at. Now, I want to share with you an event that happened in my life and how I worked through it. I'm committed on this show to being completely 100% transparent with you, not hiding anything from you. And I would tell you that I knew what my triggers were up until like last week. I would have said, I know what my triggers are. I know the parts of me that still need healing. And I am actively working on that discernment and taking a look at myself, making sure that I'm responding rather than reacting and slowly healing my nervous system around certain things. But every once in a while, we get a trigger for some place we didn't even know that we weren't healed. We didn't even know it was some place that we needed to still look. And that's what happened for me this week. Now, it came in a fairly profound way. It wasn't subtle. It was something that would probably have triggered almost anyone listening. I was leading a program this weekend via Zoom, and while I was leading the program, a text message came in to me from a person who had taken a teacher training of mine a few years ago. Now, this person I have always been extremely kind to. We had a nice relationship, and he was very satisfied with the teacher training, with the studio, all of that. And then when COVID came along, he started sending me some kind of disturbing messages. I had grace for him. I was patient. I just said, we can agree to disagree, and I wish you all the best. And I never thought anything of it. A few weeks ago, this person showed up at my yoga studio and asked for something that he had gifted me back, a little statue. And I said, of course, please have it. And I could tell that there was something off with this person's energy. So fast forward to the weekend, and I get a text message that is so disturbing, it almost knocked me out of my seat. This gentleman proceeded to say that I was worthless, that I was a scam, that I say that I have a school, but what I have is a sham, and that I should take the Buddha heads down in my studio and replace them with my head, that shift power yoga is all about control and manipulation, that he felt that I didn't keep my word to him about running a retreat together. And he went on to call me a Nazi 3 times and then told me as I get close to death that I should keep digging my own grave. Yeah, that's a disturbing message, folks. I was a little shocked, but I had to actually continue on leading this program. And so I copied and pasted it. I sent it to my husband and I said, we'll talk about this after. I just want you to know this is going on because I don't really know how much of a real threat this is. Carried on for the day. And, several hours later, I come out from my space and chat with my husband. And I say, that was really disturbing. Clearly this person has some struggles with their mental health. And I feel very disconcerted and kind of threatened. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about it. And my husband says, well, you don't have to worry about it. I've already dealt with it. Now, you would think that the text message would be the trigger. And certainly it did trigger something in me. I'm the survivor of domestic violence. I survived a lot of physical violence, verbal abuse in my first marriage. But I have enough awareness around that I was able to get the space there. The thing that triggered me was that my husband said, I've already dealt with it. And I could understand his need and want to protect me, and I appreciated him wanting to go to battle for me, but I couldn't shake this feeling of being disconcerted. Now, truth be told, he was very respectful. He just said, listen, I know you sent my wife this message. It seems like you have some problems with your mental health. Don't ever contact her again. He wasn't threatening in any way to this person, but he took it upon himself without consulting me, and it really bothered me. And before I reacted to it, I sat with it for a couple of days until I got to what it really was. I got still and quiet and I meditated and I was curious and I listened. Like, what's this really about? Now, in the week prior, I had just released my audiobook, the audiobook version of my memoir. And I had listened to it to make sure that it was good. I didn't want to put it out there if it wasn't good. I had listened to it and been reminded of a time when my husband held me hostage for several hours and physically and sexually assaulted me and verbally abused me and then stalked me and broke into my home. And there was a myriad of offenses that occurred around that time, all of which I have dealt with. I feel flat energetically with. And in the book, I had to recall what it was like going through the system. Now, the system is such that when you are the victim of violence, the Crown, the RCMP recommends charges. And then the Crown decides which charges they will pursue based on the likelihood of getting a conviction or a plea. So there should have been over a dozen charges, at least, for these offenses that occurred. And when I went to the Crown Counsel's office at their request, what they said to me was this. At the time, my last name was Cassidy. They said, Mrs. Cassidy, we have reached an agreement with your husband. He has pled guilty to the charge of uttering threats. We have stayed all of the other charges. I said, what does stayed mean? I didn't even know what that meant. And what it meant was that they agreed not to pursue those charges in exchange for a plea. So essentially, I asked them, well, don't I have any say in this? This is what happened to me. And they said, no, because if we went ahead with this, it could be a long trial. And then it's he said, she said, and this guarantees that he's going to do some jail time. And I said, yeah, but my story gets to be heard. Like a judge gets to hear what he did to me. And they said, no, he's pled guilty. It's just going to be a sentencing hearing. And I left feeling just so disregarded. I had no control in my life. Like other people were managing my life without even consulting me. I felt humiliated. I felt powerless. I felt disrespected. And I felt like they took this awful thing that had happened to me and they diminished it by sweeping so much of it under the rug so they could have success on their, I don't know what it is, their docket. So, it's not like I sit and ruminate about that. I remembered it because I had just listened to my audiobook. I hadn't thought about it in forever. And honestly, I think that this instance happened for me at the right time when that was in my awareness. Because as I got still, I realized that this gentleman that sent me the message, that clearly needs to be dealt with. But my husband going ahead and just taking over without asking me triggered that old feeling of powerlessness, which was accompanied by a weird kind of shame. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, I know what this is. I am responsible for my life. If I want him to help me, I can ask him. If I feel like I want him to go and send this gentleman a message, I can. If I want to go to the RCMP, that's for me to do. I wanted autonomy. I wanted the ability to make my own decision and be heard by whoever I decide needs to hear this. And so when I shared this with my husband, he was completely oblivious. He's like, what are you talking about? Of course, you're my wife. I want to defend you. That was unacceptable. This person needs help. He shouldn't be reaching out to you. It's scary for you. I said, yes, all of those things are true, but you are missing one step. You never asked me what I wanted to do about it. And it was so powerful because I could feel almost like dominoes falling or something, like all of these old patterns just heal in me the moment I caught that. And I was able to articulate it and see it. And then my husband could see it. And he's like, I get that. And I'm sorry, And so ultimately what I did was I sent a message to this person just saying, I am the survivor of domestic abuse. This message was toxic and abusive. And on no planet is it okay that you sent this. I've wished you well. I've prayed for you. I wish nothing but the best for you, but it seems like you have some significant problems with your mental health and you need to have those addressed. And should you contact me again, I will forward this to the RCMP and let them know about this criminal harassment. And I felt so good. It was not reactive. It was not threatening. It was creating a boundary with compassion, which was really important to me. I don't want to cause any more harm to this individual. And a few minutes later, this person sent me a text message back and said, you are right. Thank you for your prayers. I had no right to send that to you, and I do need help. Loop closed, my friends. Loop closed. Now, I'm sharing this with you because a lot of you might think that the text message was the trigger, but it wasn't. And unless I had practiced getting still, being curious, asking questions like, what is this feeling? Where is that connected to? Why is this bothering me? I never would have got to close this beautiful energetic loop that had been keeping me a little stuck that I didn't even see. And now I feel empowered. I feel like that place in my life, that chapter, the chapter of my book and the chapter of my life is truly closed because I was able to give myself the voice that I didn't have in the moment when I needed it. So I share this with you because I hear this buzzword all the time. I'm so triggered. I say, yeah, okay, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Because your triggers show you where you're not healed. Your triggers are like a pathway to treasure, to the treasure of healing, to the treasure of moving forward. Now, you may need professional help to deal with your triggers. You may need to see a counselor or a coach or a psychiatrist, and I encourage you to get whatever help you need. But if you don't choose to confront them, to sit with them, to acknowledge and embrace the things that trigger you, then they own you. Those triggers own you. They take up space rent free in your body, mind, and spirit for all of eternity. And therefore, you can't live an authentic life. You are a reaction to an old event, and you are not a pioneer of your pathway. So, on this pathway to living your most authentic and beautiful life, you're going to have to become a warrior for truth, where you're willing to look inward, ask the tough questions, and then get still and listen for the answers. The truth shall set you free, my friends. That's what I have for you today. I'm so grateful to have this platform to get to share with you. If you like the show, please share the show. We appreciate if you rate it on whatever platform you're listening on. We appreciate if there's something that resonates, that you send it to a person that you care about, or share it on social media. When we grow the show, we grow awareness and we grow together. Until next time.